evacuation orders and everything else, schools and so forth, remain in effect on the rest of the 8 counties. There's Horry, Georgetown, Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester are still under mandatory evacuation. Schools in those counties will remain closed tomorrow, Friday. The mandatory medical evacuation will also remain in place for those 5 counties today and tomorrow and until further notice. And that is because it's still a very dangerous storm. As you know, it's impossible to predict exactly where it's going to go and what's going to happen and where the tides are going to be and how the coincidence level of all those factors. So we are being prepared. In just the last hour, I spoke to Georgetown Mayor Brandon Barber, who said the water on Front Street, this was just before, I guess it was around noon, was 1 foot deep on Front Street and getting deeper. The high tide there, we think, will be around 4, or somewhere between 1:30, 4 o'clock. So that's when the water will be highest there. North Myrtle Beach Mayor Marion Hatley said that in parts of her area, notably up in Crescent Beach and some of those who get to the North Carolina line, it appeared that water was as much as 4 feet deep on Ocean Boulevard. So that's what's happening in that part of the state. In Beaufort, it's just the opposite. The flooding is not nearly what they had anticipated. The storm surge and flooding will be bad from Georgetown, Pawleys Island, Murrells Inlet, Garden City, Myrtle Beach, all the way through Cherry Grove, Atlantic Beach, all the way up to the North Carolina line and beyond. And as you know, our friends in North Carolina are expecting to get a very, very strong hurricane there. So again, we urge everybody to stay inside. If you don't need to be out, don't go out. And in this kind of situation, you don't need to go out. Stay off the streets. It's very dangerous. Now, for those folks who may want to return home in the 3 counties where the evacuation order will be lifted at 3 o'clock in Jasper, Colleton, and Beaufort counties, be careful and listen to your local authorities. If you don't hear anything from them, call them up and ask them or find out what's going on. Also, I want to remind everybody that we have a lot of film, a lot of pictures, a lot of information, a lot of data here, but you can also get a good look by looking at some of the local reporters that are out in the areas that show exactly what's going on in various parts of these cities. So do stay informed. But for those going home to Jasper, Colleton, and Beaufort counties, remember it is still a dangerous situation and you must listen to what these local authorities say and take heed. For example, there are down power lines, we know that. There's standing water on some roads, and we've had, as you know, we've had tragedies before with people going through standing water and turned out the road was gone. They didn't know it, so you can't see through the water sometimes. So be careful. There'll be limbs down, there'll be debris. Don't be surprised if there was water in your home. You might have animals, snakes, don't know what might be in there, so be very careful as you return. You may still be without power. Mayor Brendan Barber said the entire city of Georgetown is without power right now. It was about an hour ago. So you may be without power where you're going back to in those 3 counties. But the Team South Carolina is still working. Here we are. That's why we're here. That's why we have troops. We have assets placed in the state, and we'll be concentrating, of course, in reentry in those counties. But we're still battening down the hatches in the other 5 counties and want everybody to be alert. Because when the wind stops, we still have to deal with the water, because the water will last longer. And once the water's gone, we still have to, when we get in and try to evaluate, we still have down power lines, all kinds of other dangers. So please listen to the local and the state authorities, and we'll give you our best estimate of what is safe to do. Now we have some visitors with us today. We're delighted to have visitors. Pete Gaynor is here. He's the acting FEMA administrator, and also Major General Diana Holland from the U.S. Corps of Engineers. I'd like to give them both a chance to speak to you.
Thank you,
Mr. Gaynor.
So thank you to the governor and his team for the great work they've done in South Carolina, getting ready for what Hurricane Dorian is bringing. I had the pleasure to attend the executive group meeting today. Plainly obvious that South Carolina has it well in hand, well organized. Everyone is involved, and it's really a great thing to see. This is a whole of government effort. Storms like this are locally executed, state-managed, and federally supported, representing the federal government through FEMA. We are ready to support the governor and his team in anything he may need that exceeds state's capability. It is imperative that individuals are also prepared. As Dorian continues to move close to the south coast of South Carolina throughout the day, it's important to stay vigilant and heed the warnings of your local officials. You heard the governor say it. You need to really pay attention to what's the risks out there and only return when given the order. Storm surge and flooding bring the greatest danger. Stay out of floodwaters, turn around, don't drown. The majority of deaths are people in cars, transiting roads when it's not safe, so please be careful. More than 12,000 federal responders, that includes National Guard, FEMA employees, and our federal partners and nonprofits and private sector, are out there right now ready to support. And again, should the governor need any assistance, we stand ready. So, Governor, thank you for your hospitality today, and thank you for all the warmth you gave to my staff here and making this a true team effort.
Thanks, sir. We're glad you're here.
Sir.
Major General Diana Holland, Corps of Engineers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Governor. On behalf of the Army Corps of Engineers, we're proud to support the state of South Carolina in this emergency. I just want to cover 4 of our priorities that are ongoing right now. Of course, we're ready to support the state as directed by FEMA. As a Department of Defense entity, we're in close contact with the military installations in the state of South Carolina to provide them any support that may be necessary, whether post-storm assessments or emergency repairs. In support of the U.S. Coast Guard, we will deploy our survey vessels into the federal channels to assist with the decision on when to open the ports. We are also ready to survey the portions of the federal portions of the coastline in order to eventually repair whatever damage has been done to our beaches. Those are just a few of our top priorities. We are ready to support however needed, and we really appreciate the teamwork, Governor.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, General. General Van Carter, National Guard.
Thank you, Governor. Currently, over 1,400 soldiers, airmen, and members of our State Guard remain deployed in the affected area in response to Hurricane Dorian. Most of those individuals are currently sheltered and will remain there until given that it is clear to go forward, and at that time they will support re-entry into the affected area. We have debris teams from our engineer units that are in place to help in that mission, and we have over 100 high water vehicles that are positioned throughout the coastal counties. As we clear the southern conglomerate, we will move those assets as necessary up to the central conglomerate and then on up to the northern to make sure that we meet all the needs there. In addition to those, we have aircraft that are available to support the state fire marshal and aquatic search and rescue. We continue to monitor the assets that are available to us through Title 10 or other assets that are in the southeast region, and we're preparing for what other missions that may come in response and recovery operations. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, General. Secretary of Transportation, Crispy Hall.
Thank you, Governor. The 2,200 men and women of the South Carolina DOT are currently very much actively engaged in emergency response and recovery operations in the Beaufort, Hilton Head, and Edisto areas. We've gone in and done our initial assessments with our advanced teams. We've inspected the bridges. The bridges have all checked out fine. We are in the process of doing traffic signal restoration work in some of these areas as required. As the governor and others have mentioned, we're still waiting for the storm to pass by in Charleston, Georgetown, and Myrtle Beach area, and of course, once it's safe to do so, we will get out and conduct our assessment and recovery operations, as well as the necessary bridge inspections in those areas. You heard John Q. mention the Waccamaw River. We continue our analysis with regards to our infrastructure in that area to try to anticipate what may be coming our way Friday and beyond. And just a few final stats for you. Evacuees, our total number of evacuees is 441,000, which is very, very similar to what we had for Hurricane Florence last year. And on I-26 reversal, our final stats on that, again, taking into account that we started the reversal an hour and a half early based on traffic conditions, and we were able to extend it an additional 2 hours based on the governor's observation on traffic flows, for a total of 52 hours in operation. We were able to move 89,000 vehicles on I-26 westbound, and that includes 17,000 vehicles that were on the reverse side of the interstate. I encourage, just like the governor does, to heed the warnings of the local officials, and in particular, if a road is barricaded, do not drive around those barricades and do not move those barricades. They are there for your safety. Thank you, Governor.
Director Leroy Smith, Department of Public Safety.
Thank you, Governor. There are no reported storm-related deaths at this time. Once a death is confirmed by the coroner, then we will provide that information to you. I-26 lane reversal ended yesterday. We closed the entry points to the reverse sides at 2 p.m. and at 5:28 p.m. all normal eastbound lanes of I-26 were open. We are currently assisting SLED and ESF 13 with law enforcement and security missions. We're prepared to assist our partners over at SCDOT with any road closures and diversion routes due to flooding if needed. Our troopers and officers will be out patrolling the roads, conducting traffic control missions, looking for downed power lines, tree debris in the roadway, and looking for any other roadway hazards. And as several mentioned before, we want to remind the motoring public roadway conditions will be dangerous in the impacted areas. Please stay off the roads unless it's absolutely necessary. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, sir. Mark Keel, Chief of SLED.
Good afternoon. As of today, this afternoon, we have over 500 state law enforcement officers along with National Guard MPs that are continuing to patrol areas that are now being allowed to re-enter. They started those patrols at 9:30 this morning in the southern conglomerate, which is Colleton, Jasper, and Beaufort counties. They will continue those patrols as necessary until local officials decide that we can demobilize in those areas. Those personnel will then be moved up the coastline as necessary. We have areas that are flooded that we know will be flooded in the upper areas of our state, the upper coastline. Those areas too will be patrolled. We will be working patrolling on our roadways and also in our waterways with DNR, and so we will remain out in force with all of our local jurisdictions, our law enforcement partners. Again, as I've said each day, we will not tolerate any lawlessness. We will be out in force, and if there are those out there that's trying to take advantage of those who have evacuated, left their homes, and can get back to them because of flooded areas, if we catch you doing those things that you shouldn't be doing, you will be arrested and you will go to jail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Rick Toomey, Director of the Department of Health and Environmental Control.
Thank you, Governor. Currently, over 200 DHEC staff across the state are mobilized for the storm preparation and response efforts. We remain in communication with the 175 healthcare facilities that have been impacted by the mandatory medical evacuation. More than 150 ambulances were deployed to help facilitate medical evacuations before the storm. And of note, we still have 90 ambulances and 220 paramedics, EMTs, and support staff from across the country, and they're staged here in Columbia on standby to provide additional support if and when needed. We continue to monitor the rainfall amounts. Yesterday, based upon those revised numbers, our dam safety team completed additional pre-storm dam assessments based on the adjusted rainfall amounts. And finally, our care line, 1-855-4SC DHEC, or 1-855-472-3432, remains open to answer questions from our patients and women, infant, and children clients. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Michael Leach, Director of the Department of Social Services.
Thank you, Governor. Afternoon. At this time, South Carolina has 35 shelters open across the state. Of the 35 shelters that are operating, 32 are general population shelters and 3 are medical needs shelters, and we are utilizing 28 school buildings. As of 1:20 p.m., we have a total population of 2,484 individuals in all shelters. The number includes 2,426 general population, individuals and 58 medical needs clients. South Carolina currently has 22 shelters on standby across the state, including 4 general population shelters and 18 medical needs shelters. Our total capacity is 19,439 occupants, and we are presently at 12% of that capacity. As of last evening, Red Cross and the National Guard delivered cots to all our shelters. Any residents deciding to seek shelter are reminded to bring blankets, sleeping bags, pillows, medications, and special foods if you are on a restricted diet. Partner organizations are supplying food and water at all operating shelters. Shelter information can be found at scemd.org. You may also contact the Public Information Phone System line at 1-866-246-0133. Shelter staff are available to assist with coordinating accommodations and support for persons with functional and access needs. Some shelters are pet-friendly, but all shelters will be prepared to assist evacuees in identifying local resources to care for pets. Pet-friendly shelters are located in Charleston, Colleton, Dorchester, Berkeley, and Jasper counties. Some of these may be closing, so check with the shelter before you go. Because DSS county offices located in evacuation zones are closed, we ask the patience of our citizens who experience longer wait times when calling about benefits. We are communicating with the Office of Regulatory Staff to closely monitor the power situation to determine the effects, if any. And our DSS Early Care and Education activated their emergency hotline for child care facilities to report damage, report closures, and request to expand capacity to care for the children from facilities affected by the evacuation. That number is 1-888-825-7174.
Thank you very much. Emily Farr, Legal Licensing and Regulation.
Thank you, sir.
Amen.
State Fire and its search and rescue partners continue to be ready and prepared to respond as may be needed as this storm passes through South Carolina. Again, to emphasize, if you need help, please dial 911. The Joint Incident Support Team, which consists of South Carolina's Palmetto Incident Support Team, Louisiana's Advanced Incident Support Team, and then FEMA's Urban Search and Rescue RED Incident Support Team, are all coordinating resources spread across the coastal areas to respond as may be needed. As mentioned yesterday, South Carolina has a number of swift water rescue and urban search and rescue teams positioned within the coastal communities and also positioned outside of those communities to respond where they may be needed. And also we still have the FEMA urban search and rescue and swift water rescue teams stationed at Fort Jackson to assist. Not counting the rescuers that are already working within their own jurisdiction, we have a total of 326 rescuers out there in South Carolina ready to help as needed. I did want to emphasize as well, as these power outages spread and may be prolonged, wanted to emphasize what was mentioned yesterday about being safe in trying to provide power to yourself when the power outage occurs, avoiding using candles and open flames. Use flashlights with batteries instead to the extent possible. Remember not to use generators inside. Don't even use them inside an attached garage if the door is open. Make sure those generators are outside and away from doors and windows where those exhaust fumes might enter your home. Also, don't refuel those generators while they are running. Make sure that they are off and cooled before you do so. And also just a note for the utility workers that will be out there working hard, if you use a generator, make sure to turn off the main breaker to your home. That way when the electricity is restored, there won't be a chance of that electricity going back onto the power lines and potentially injuring a utility worker. So just a reminder about that as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ray Farmer, Department of Insurance.
Thank you, Governor. As the storm passes by and people return to their homes and discover there's some damages to their homes, you need to know that the insurance companies are currently staged in a safe spot. They're ready to come in and assess and adjust the claims as soon as it's safe to do so. We have allowed companies to bring in extra emergency adjusters if need be to supplement our core adjusting staff already in place in the state. If you have any questions or need to find out what your insurance company's phone number is, go to our website. We have a list of all the phone companies of all the companies at doi.sc.gov. Governor, unfortunately, these events we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years have brought out the best in people, but they sometimes bring out the worst in people. So
we have been listening to a live briefing from Governor Henry McMaster and state leaders in reference to Hurricane Dorian and where the state stands right now. Perhaps one of the biggest takeaways from this is that the governor is lifting the mandatory evacuation order for 3 of the 8 counties, and those are important to our region here in the Low Country. Those 3 counties, Ben?
Those 3 counties are Beaufort, Jasper, and Colleton counties, but you'll notice, hopefully you notice, that the governor qualified that by saying that the state is lifting the evacuation order at 3. But this was some confusion during Matthews. So we want to make sure you get this across. It is still up to the local counties as to when they deem it safe for you to return. So if you're watching us from afar and you've evacuated to Atlanta or Charlotte or the like, Jasper, Beaufort, and Colleton counties will reopen at 3 today. As far as the state is concerned, you need to wait for direction. Of course, we'll pass along that direction as soon as we get it from your local counties.
We certainly will, and of course the governor also stressing that when you are able to go back, to come home, please be careful. Make sure that you watch out for those downed tree limbs that may be around, also wires that may be along the streets, and just simply be very careful as possible.
So this storm is still affecting parts of South Carolina, just not our region. So we want to get over to Storm Team 3 for the latest on that. We have meteorologist Alyssa Carsley with us.
Hey Ben, good afternoon to you. Here's the very latest on Dorian. It's now right around 120 miles. The center of the storm is away from us here in Savannah, and it's pulling farther and farther away. However, you can see towards Charleston, they are getting the heavier rain bands right near the center of the eye. Now, we're still seeing some light rain showers that are still in our area for Beaufort, Bluffton, down to Hilton Head. And these rain showers may linger for another hour or 2, but they are lightening up. So that's good news. It means that conditions in our area are starting to improve. In fact, areas towards Alma and Baxley, you could see mostly sunny skies, and then towards Savannah, mostly cloudy skies with just some peaks of sunshine. But again, towards Charleston, they were closest to the eye earlier this morning. They saw wind gusts up to 92 miles per hour. That's hurricane force wind gusts towards that area. Still seeing some moderate rain there. But as for our area, our highest wind gust was found on Hilton Head Island of 67 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour for North Tybee Island. Fort Pulaski had a wind gust of 58 miles per hour, 53 in Beaufort, and 45 in Savannah. We're still seeing pretty breezy conditions throughout the area. The bulk of the gustier winds are right along the coastline from Savannah up towards Beaufort. We're still seeing tropical storm force winds near Beaufort, 33 miles per hour for gusts in Savannah, and that drops off just to 20 miles per hour as we head further inland. But notice the winds are coming down from the northwest. That's continuing to push the water farther inland. So we didn't see any storm surge this morning. However, that's all due to the offshore wind. We didn't have any onshore wind during time of high tide. So currently, it's a Category 2 hurricane, winds of 110 miles per hour, moving to the northeast at 8. And it's going to continue to make its way to the northeast as we head throughout the day today into early Friday morning, slowly dropping down to a Category 1 hurricane as we go into Saturday and Friday morning. Now for us, since we still have some rain right in Beaufort County, we could still see up to an additional 1 inch of rain just for the low country. An occasional 30 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts will also be possible, especially right along the coastline for Chatham, as well as Jasper and Beaufort counties. Everywhere else, we're just seeing 20 mile per hour wind gusts. And of course, the storm surge threat has ended. We're getting that offshore wind, and the offshore wind will continue as we head into the rest of the day today. And our conditions will continue to improve, especially going to the weekend. We're expecting practically perfect conditions as we head into Saturday as well as Sunday. All right, Tina and Ben, back to you.
Alyssa, thank you so much.
I do want to mention before we go, we did receive an email a few minutes ago from the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, and this is in reference to the evacuation of the reentry, everything being lifted by the governor of South Carolina. And in this email, The Sheriff's Office says it is clear for residents and guests to return to Beaufort County at that time, of course, beginning at 3 o'clock. And we do have Jasper and Colleton counties. We have not heard from them in terms of if it's clear to definitely return. But again, the governor, Henry McMaster, saying that the evacuation order being lifted as of 3 o'clock today.
That's good news. We'll welcome everybody home. Stay with News 3 on air and online for the latest on Hurricane Dorian.
We now return you to regular programming.